This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
A vast universe exists within and beyond our reality. What we realize with our five senses is but a tiny fraction of all that is real. The universe is not a product of matter and energy, but a projection of consciousness and energy. Welcome to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm Joe Wiegent, your guide and advocate, as we remove the blinders of our everyday lives and experience together all that exists out there in the world beyond our world. Thanks for joining us today, folks and friends. We got an exciting show set up for you this hour. Our guest today is Frater Stephen Armstrong. Now, Stephen Armstrong has been a student and practitioner of spirituality and mysticism all of his life. He is a professional historian, a philosopher, and teacher based in the San Francisco Bay Area. After an undergraduate degree from Yale, he was a Jesuit for 24 years and was ordained by the Byzantine Greek Catholic Church. Having left that vocation, he joined the Rosicrucian Order of AMORC and the Traditional Martinist Order in San Jose, California. He has served in several ritual and administrative positions in the order, and he works at the Grand Lodge in San Jose, California in membership services, as well as assisting with the order's publications. His current areas of interest include how the primordial tradition permeates all world traditions, and the way in which the Rosicrucian and Martinist Paths provide a unique and unifying viewpoint on those traditions. He is the author of more than 30 published papers, articles, and podcasts, and he is a lecturer for the Rose Croix University International. Father Stephen, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
In just a few brief minutes, can you tell me how it was that you started on this path? What led you down this road to where we are today?
Well, you mean in terms of the Rosicrucians?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, as I was getting ready to enter the Jesuits back in 1977, I was visiting a friend in San Jose, and I was out walking, and I turned the corner, and Shazam, Egypt was there. Rosicrucian Park is a full city block on Nagley Avenue, and it's all in Egyptian Renaissance style. So I went into the museum, enjoyed it, and picked up the booklet, the introductory booklet, Mastery of Life, and read that, and I found it very interesting, but I was already on another trajectory. And so, but that seed was planted there. And so years later, my partner and I came down to the Rosicrucian Egyptian Museum, and it rekindled the spark for me. And so I sent off the application and joined, and have really found a wonderful home with the Rosicrucian Order and the Traditional Martinist Order.
And what path were you following whenever you bumped into the Egyptian Museum?
Oh, well, I was entering the Jesuit order, the Society of Jesus. It's a religious order within the Catholic communion of churches.
And so the turn into a happenstance into the Egyptian Museum changed that entire path.
Well, it planted a seed. And so after I had been a Jesuit for 24 years, which I did very happily, loved it, and still stay in touch with my fellow Jesuits, but the time came for me to leave. In a religious order, there isn't the possibility of having a partner. So it was time for me to go, and I left on great terms. And but happily, that seed had been planted about the Rosicrucians, and so it was a natural transition.
The being ordained into the Byzantine Greek Catholic Church, is that a part of the Jesuit order, or is that a separate function there? How did that go about?
Well, Jesuits serve all of the 21 Catholic churches that make up the Catholic communion of churches. Most people are only familiar with the Roman Catholic Church, but there are Byzantine Catholics, Coptic Catholics. We hear a lot now about the various Christians in the Middle East, sadly, in very dire circumstances. But so it just a Jesuit can serve any one of those churches, and so my inclination was to be ordained in the Byzantine Greek Catholic Church. So it integrates.
Now, is that more of the Roman Catholic style, or is that more the Eastern Orthodox, or is it a mixture of both? How does that work with the Jesuits?
It's exact for me, and the circumstances of the church I was in. It's exactly like Eastern Orthodox, except that we were in communion with Rome.
How about that?
Yeah.
So, briefly, what is Rosicrucianism?
Well, Rosicrucianism is an ancient path. We trace our traditional lineage back to ancient Egypt, and in terms of
I'm gonna have to cut your answer short for just a few moments. We have to take a hard break here for just a second. Folks, you're listening to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Wiegand. We'll be right back in just a moment with Father Stephen Armstrong.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Wiegand, and this hour we are talking with Frater Stephen Armstrong on Rosicrucianism. Frater Stephen, is Rosicrucian, is that a religion? Does someone have to leave their religion and become a member of Rosicrucianism? Is it a separate religion all its own? How does it work?
Sure. Well, the Rosicrucian or AMORC is not a religion in any way, shape, or form. We are a philosophical fraternity of men and women who study spirituality, mysticism, but from a non-sectarian religious viewpoint. So no one has to leave their faith if they belong to a faith community. In fact, we have members of just about every faith community under the sun. We also have members of the clergy of a number of different religions, including some Eastern religions as well as Christianity and Judaism. So we're a very large fraternity, and so most people who are religious find that the study that we do enhances the experience of their own faith rather than having a problem, because nothing in the Rosicrucian order is dogmatic. That is to say, nothing is imposed on members. You study the materials, and if it doesn't fit your experience, you just set it aside.
So someone could be, say, a Hindu or practice Buddhism or something and still be a member of Rosicrucian. Is that correct? Absolutely.
In fact, I know people who are.
So what actually is the essence of Rosicrucianism? How does that differ from everything else, and how does it blend into everything else?
Certainly. The Rosicrucian path is a path of coming to know oneself and, the old adage, know thyself and thou shalt know the gods of the universe. It is a path of coming to rely on oneself and one's inner voice. And the order's teachings are a very carefully gradated education system, bringing a person the tools that they need to investigate things for themselves. So the Rosicrucian path is not one of belief, it's one of knowledge. We come to know things for ourselves and to rely on ourselves, not accepting anything that anyone else tells us unless we have tested for ourselves. Now, we involve ourselves in spiritual practices, mystical practices, meditation, and we grow through the tools the order gives us on the level of body, psyche, the psychic gifts, and spiritual gifts.
When you said that it found its origins in Egypt, would that be in Alexandria, where the Greeks and the Egyptians and the Indians all gathered together for philosophical study and exploration? At that time, did Rosicrucian, burst forth from that moment?
Well, actually, no. It was there. It was certainly present there. But we traced our lineage back to the co-reign of the pharaohs Tutmosis III and Hatshepsut. And this is in Breasted's, Egyptian records. So, this is uncontested that this event actually happened. They combined the mystery schools that were attached to each of the temples in Egypt. They were called the Per Anku, the houses of life. That's where the mysteries were taught. And they combined all of these into one order and placed that order under Hatshepsut's vizier, Hapusanet. And so that's what we trace. Now, we don't claim that they call themselves Rosicrucians or anything like that, but we trace our distant origins to that unifying of all the mystery schools of ancient Egypt. Now then, it goes along through the centuries under many forms. We just finished the Rosicrucian Digest timeline series, which you can find at rosicrucian.org, which traces all the various tributaries, alchemy, Neoplatonism, Kabbalah, etc., that flow into the Rosicrucian order. But then in 1614, 1615, and 1616, the three original Rosicrucian manifestos were published, and Rosicrucianism arose in Europe and was visible once again. And then that continued for centuries until our founder of this round of Rosicrucian work, H. Spencer Lewis, was initiated in Toulouse in 1909 by the Rosicrucians there and given the mandate to bring Rosicrucianism back to North America, where it had been twice before. Once in Carmel, what is now Carmel, in about 1602, 1603, and then secondly in colonial period, where both Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were associated with our work.
When you say that Rosicrucianism is a search for truth and a search for knowledge, what kinds of things should an adept be exposed to? What kinds of truths are you leading them to, and do you ever really find it? Do we ever find truth?
Well, I certainly think so. Yes, it's various kinds. It all depends on what the person is looking for, of course. But the truths of our own abilities. On one level, we are helping, the course helps members to hone their own psychic skills, their own abilities, and their spiritual abilities. But the truth is that the ancient adage, as above, so below. There is a natural correspondence in all things. So this is one of the basic Hermetic adages. So that we experience the oneness of all. And the ultimate goal, of course, of Rosicrucian path and of many paths is to be in union with the original source of all. You could call it the divine. Some people call it God. We refer to God of our hearts, God of our realization, and we don't define what or who God is. That's up to the individual to experience for themselves. I guess the real key is experience. Paracelsus, for instance, was very big on getting out and experiencing things. That's, I think, the core, is that it's a kind of gnosis. It's an inner experience of something so that we really come to know it.
I'm glad you used that word, because one of my next questions was going to be, how close is this to Gnosticism? Because I have been recently embarking on a study of Gnosticism and Gnosis, and what you've been saying so far is falling hand in glove with what I've been experiencing myself.
Well, certainly, and the Gnostics are one of the topics that are covered in that Rosicrucian Timeline series that was edited by our most venerable Grand Master, Julie Scott. But we have a lot of things in common with the Gnostics, including the concept of gnosis itself, inner spiritual knowledge. The slight difference would be that in Gnosticism, and I'm not a Gnostic, so I can't officially speak for them, but in Gnosticism, there tends to be an idea that the world was the creation of either an evil or befuddled demiurge. And so the point is that you have to to get up to the original source, the divine, you kind of have to get around that sort of befuddled demiurge. Especially in terms of ancient Gnosticism. I don't know what modern Gnostics, what their practice is. But we tend to follow more closely the Hermetic path, which would say, as above, so below. So, in other words, that there is a direct and, if you will, organic spiritual connection, Plato's ladder of being, all the way up and down a ladder, and with no obstruction. So it may be we honor the Gnostics tremendously, and especially in their later incarnation of the Cathars down in southern France in the Languedoc area. We feel very close to them, of course, because our lineage comes from Toulouse, where the Cathars were active, and we have tremendous sympathy for them. They were horribly persecuted.
I'm a member of the Freemasons, actually a twice past master of our local lodge here in Indiana.
Great.
And how does the Rosicrucian order compare to the modern order of Freemasonry?
Well, you would see some structural similarities. Both Masonry and the Rosicrucian order, AMORC, come from the Western esoteric tradition. And so, you have a temple with 4 stations, pillars and things like that. So on that level, there's a certain kind of external similarity. And some of the spirituality is the same as well. However, we are not the Mason. We're not associated with Masons and never have been. However, there have been periods of cooperation. For instance, in the Scottish Rite, the 18th degree, the Rose Croix degree, is probably a token of that. Now, there are some significant differences. For instance, in the Rosicrucian order, AMORC, women are 100% equal. There's no second order for women or anything like that. And so, for instance, our Grand Master, Julie Scott, is a woman, and the Scandinavian Grand Master is also a woman. And so you have, and women, play all kinds of leadership roles in the order and in our rituals as well. In fact, in a Rosicrucian convocation, there is no part that a woman cannot play, and there are a couple of parts that men cannot play. Interesting. So there really is a tremendous equality, and one of the things too about the Rosicrucian path is the complementarity the wonderful complementarity of the masculine and feminine energies. And we see that going all the way back to Tutmosis III and his stepmother Hatshepsut, and then Nefertiti and Akhenaten, important people in our path, and then the co-founders of the Rosicrucian Order, AMORC, H. Spencer Lewis and Maybank Stacy. So it's because each of us has the masculine and feminine energies within us, and we find that to be very productive and complementary.
How do the initiations and symbolism function within the order?
Well, of course, symbols are occasions, things that allow us to connect with other levels of reality that we otherwise would not be able to connect. And rituals are, in essence, a kind of symbols acted out. And so in the order, the basis is the home study. But as you go through each level, you become eligible for a temple initiation. There are home initiations, which people do and are very useful, but the communal experience of a temple initiation, which can take place at the Grand Temple, our Grand Temple being in San Jose, or at one of the lodge temples throughout our jurisdiction and throughout the world, it enhances it because you have the shared experience, not only of your common study, but of common symbols, rituals, etc., which bind us together and help to raise us collectively to a new level. I've had the honor of serving on the ritual team at the Rosicrucian Park for many years, and it is a tremendous experience, both receiving the initiations and then participating in conferring them. It's just a tremendous honor and fun also. I mean, spirituality should be fun.
Well, absolutely. I also do a number of lectures within the Masonic order, and it is an honor to be able to do some of these lectures and play these parts for these people going through their 3 degrees. We're going to take a short break for just a moment, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Frater Stephen Armstrong. This is the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Wiegent. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Wiegent, and we are talking about the Rosicrucian Order with Frater Stephen Armstrong. Frater Stephen, we were just talking about the symbolism of both the Freemasonic Order and of the Rosicrucian Order, and in Freemasonry, it's the tools of architecture that are used to remind its members to build their lives in a way that we're basically building that temple for after our deaths, for that life beyond this life. And so we use tools and symbols like the square and the compass, the level and the plumb, to help us to remind ourselves each day to live according to the things that those symbols represent in order to make sure that we're building that edifice for our next life. How do the symbols that are used by the Rosicrucian Order, how do they impart their messages? Is it for this life? Is it for the next life? How do they impart their messages to its members?
Well, we certainly have a number of symbols, a triangle being one of our primary symbols. We have, on occasion, use the square and the compass as a symbol. We are much more focused on this world and improving this world. The keynote of an artisan, which is someone who is in the 12th degree, is service. And today we are accomplishing that service in amazingly different ways. We are working for the perfection of this plane of existence, insofar as it is possible. We know that we're immortal beings having a physical experience, and that we will go on and be reincarnated many times. But our job here is to provide for the betterment of humanity, all the creatures on our planet, and the planet itself. And so, for instance, our Imperator, Christian Bernard, has issued 3 new manifestos since 2001. The Positio Fraternitatis, the Appellatio Fraternitatis, so the position of the brotherhood fraternity and the call of the fraternity. And then in 2016, the new chemical wedding of Christian Rosicrucians. And the point of all of these is that the world is at a crucial junction. The Appellatio from 2014 calls for spirituality, that is to say, a re-spiritualization of the world, which has become very materialistic. Then secondly, if you can't go with that, then at least humanism, that is to say, to create a world that is fair and just for all humans and for all creatures on our planet. And if you can't go with that, then ecology. Because if we cannot preserve this beautiful planet that we have been given, we will have nowhere to live and to practice spirituality and humanism. A good example of where we're going on that is a project that the French Grand Lodge created called Hope2050.org. It's a beautiful evocation of what we are visualizing, that the world will turn around and correct the grievous problems that are facing us.
So here's the big question. What is mysticism?
Okay, great. A couple of things. First of all, in order to understand some of it, I recommend that people view our new 9-part video series that we've created. It's over on YouTube/Rosicrucian TV, called The Sacred History of the Rosicrucians. And you'll get a lot of information about mysticism there. But in a kernel, mysticism is direct connection with the divine, however you conceive the divine to be, without intermediary, and the consecrated languages, without intermediary of priest or king. So you have the great mystics of all time. Some are within religion, some are not within religion. Religious mystics, of course, are people like John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila, St. Simeon the New Theologian, Maximus the Confessor, in Christianity, and then certainly in Judaism, the Kabbalah, and then in the Far East, the Master Buddha. I mean, there's all kinds of mystics within religion, but then there's also mystics like in the Rosicrucians who are not in one particular mystical path. Now, in addition to that, a mystic has a viewpoint on the world that sees through some of the externals. You know that, like in Hinduism, they have the principle that everything is Maya, that the separateness is an illusion. And so the mystic has a kind of leg up, you might say, in being able to see the world as it really is. Now, nobody can fully live that way on this plane of existence, but we move in that direction. And H. Spencer Lewis and Ralph Maxwell Lewis, our 2 former imperators, and Christian Bernard, all were very deep mystics. But it's also, we use the term practical mysticism. That is to say that it's not some, pie in the sky kind of thing. This is practical. It works on a daily basis to help us in life, business, relationships, etc.
So mysticism is not so much an exploration of the universe as it also is an exploration of ourselves in the universe.
Right. Well, that's in fact, we go back to that adage that was above the temple of Apollo at Delphi. know thyself, and thou shalt know the universe and the gods. Because it's not only as above, so below, it's also as without, so within. So as with outside of myself, so within myself. So, you can search for the divine in the universe, but you can also search for the divine in your own heart. Both are equally valid, and they're completely complementary to one another.
So how do the initiative levels of the order, how do they impart those particular messages?
Well, each one of the degrees, the first 9 temple degrees, has a particular focus. Some focus on more scientific principles, some focus on more esoteric principles, and each initiation is keyed to that particular topic and uses symbolism, ritual, etc., to complement and convey what the degree entails. Now, and then, of course, we have higher degrees, 11th, 12th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, which, in the same way, the ritual complements what we are studying.
So, is it whenever someone's doing this at home and they don't have access to a nearby temple, and obviously somebody in Georgia would have a difficulty going all the way to San Jose to receive initiations, and they wanted to do these things at home and become a member online or whatever you. How does the Grand Lodge know that the adept has finished those initiations or has seen that particular light? Are there tests to take? Is there papers to write, or some kind of revelation that they need to explain to the Grand Lodge to say, okay, I've got this point, I'm ready to move on? How does a person move through those degrees in a way that the Grand Lodge can understand that the initiate is grasping these things for themselves?
Well, actually, first of all, an initiate in Georgia would go to the lodge in Atlanta. So we have temples all over the place. So it's not just the one temple in the Grand Lodge. We've got temples of, New York, Chicago, Boston, Los Angeles, St. Louis, etc. So and Toronto, and this is just one jurisdiction, and we've got all these jurisdictions around the world: the French, the Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Greek, etc. So we've got places all over the world. So there's lots of places for people to be initiated. But as to, we don't do testing. We trust, this is a path, a Rosicrucian really has to be a self-starter. And the goal is for the person to become their own master. There's an old, our goal is mastery of life, and that's similar to the old scholastic description of a dominus sui, a lord or lady of oneself. And so we trust that the members are being guided by the master within. And, the only person they're hurting, if they're not really paying attention, is themselves. So we don't test. We leave that up to the individual. And, of course, the way one can tell if someone is truly advanced is how they treat one another. How they treat other people. Are they kind? Are they helpful? Are they generous? We don't look for people to, be shining with brilliant light around them or something like that. I mean, those phenomena do exist and do happen from time to time, but that's not what true advancement is. True advancement is becoming a more divine human being, someone who is living the fact that we are emanated from the one divine source. That's how you can tell. And I've met so many upper degree members that really do. I mean, they shine, not necessarily with physical light, but I mean, they radiate kindness and solicitude, which I've been the beneficiary of many times. So you can really tell. You can tell when somebody has taken their studies seriously.
So is that one of the advantages or the benefits of belonging to the order, is just a better knowledge of self and a better presence of self when he's amongst other people? Absolutely.
That's in our society today, that's a pretty good benefit. Now, we also, we have techniques for psychic projection. Our sixth degree focuses on energy healing. We have energy healing techniques that are not the same, but they have some of the same principles as the Asian idea that there's energy flowing throughout the body, and you can work with that. We have all kinds of psychic practices: telepathy, telekinesis, vibraturgy, where you pick up an old coin and get some feeling from it. We go through all those things because our psychic abilities are part of our natural heritage as human beings, and we have exercises to help people do those things. But that's all for the purpose of growing as a whole person, so that we'll be ready to be able to advance to the more spiritual tasks of serving our brothers and sisters, all the other creatures on the planet, etc., benefiting humanity and the whole planet. That's the ultimate goal. And, of course, union with the one source of being. And these other things, physical, healing, psychic work, etc., are simply steps in that progression. Now, different people concentrate on different things. So there's a whole range of stuff, and probably not every Rosicrucian concentrates on every single thing.
So once those lessons are learned in that sixth degree there, where you're learning these psychic things, are those carried on to other degrees from that point?
Everything builds on what you've learned before. The sixth degree is specifically about healing and using the energy of the body to assist. Now, it's not in place of modern medicine. It's to assist with that process. We always tell people, trust your doctor, go with your doctor. But yes, each degree and the skills you learn in each degree, clearly each one builds on what you learned in the last degree.
Well, I want to stop right there. We have to go to a break. We're going to go to our final segment in just a moment. Folks, thank you for listening to the World Beyond Radio Show. We're going to cut to a break, and we'll be right back with Frater Stephen Armstrong of the Rosicrucian in just a moment.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to the World Beyond Radio Show. I appreciate you tuning in today. I'm your host and guide, Joe Wiegand. And as always, our show is produced and distributed by the ever-expanding leader in New Age, paranormal, alternative health, and supernatural programming, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and Relmar McConnell Media Company, at their corporate headquarters and master control in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. To learn more about the World Beyond Radio Show, your host, or to discover a wealth of other amazing shows and their hosts, please visit www.xzbn.net. To contact me or to inquire about being a guest on the World Beyond, please email me at Joe Weigand. That's Joe, WEIGANT, at xzbn.net. For more information, you can also visit my websites, www.paranormalpeace.com and www.reikichoice, that's REIKI, choice.com. Or you can visit me on Facebook and see all the things that I do there. Frater Stephen Armstrong, how can our listeners reach you or your websites and learn more about the Order of the Rosicrucians?
Well, it's very simple. Our primary website for the English Grand Lodge for North and South America and the Caribbean is www.rosicrucian.org, O-R-G. And there you can download free booklet, Mastery of Life, which gives you a real rundown on our course of study and the benefits of being in the order, because lots of other stuff belonging to a fraternal order is more than just a course of study. We also, at that website, have tons of texts, podcasts, auxiliary material, which is free. A few books cost a little bit for an ebook, but not much. So really, that's the place to go in North and South America and the Caribbean. If our listeners are from other parts of the world, they can go to www.amorc.org. That's AMORC.org. And all of our Grand Lodges and jurisdictions, and there are many, are listed there. And you would simply, let's say, for instance, you're in the Czech Republic. You click on the Czech and Slovak administration and would be able to join there. Now, for our jurisdiction, joining is so easy. You simply go to that webpage, rosicrucian.org, and click Join the Order. There's a short form. You fill it out, and dues are either in U.S. dollars. They're either $150 a year or $15 a month. That's it. And you join, and you begin downloading your materials online. We have seen a tremendous increase in membership around the world, but certainly in our own jurisdiction, since we're fulfilling the mandate that was given to H. Spencer Lewis by the Rosicrucians in Toulouse. They told him, take these mysteries and make them available for modern men and women. So first, of course, they used the mail order. Now we use the internet. And we're open to everybody, men, women, all genders, all ethnic groups, etc. There is no barrier there.
Freemasonry has often been accused of being a secret society, which doesn't make sense because we all wear rings and put placards on our cars and license plates and wear jackets and hats and everything that have the square and compass all over it. We'll tell anybody we're a Freemason. Has the Rosicrucians ever been accused of being a secret order?
Oh, all the time. And I say to people, we're not doing a very good job of it. We've got a full city block in San Jose of Egyptian buildings. We have a similar thing in Curitiba, Brazil, and we have a beautiful, huge building in Paris. So we're not doing a very good job of keeping things secret. The idea is, though, it's a fraternal order, and just like Masonry, of course there are things like passwords and various things like that you have to be a member to know. But we are very open nowadays. When you go to our website, rosicrucian.org, we share so much information. We're not a secret society. If so, we're getting a bad grade on it.
I joke with people whenever they start accusing Freemasonry of trying to take over the world and being connected with some Illuminati or whatever stuff. And I always joke back with them and say, yes, the Freemasons are trying to take over the world one pancake breakfast at a time.
Yes. Well, after all, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, were certainly based on Rosicrucian and Masonic ideals. So we have the New World Order is in fact the liberal, democratic, free world. That's the real deal that these ideals brought about.
Precisely. You mentioned during our last segment about psychic abilities and energy healing. I'm a Reiki master, and I run a business doing Reiki healing for people. How is the essence of the energy work that you're teaching in Rosicrucians? How similar or different is it from Reiki practice?
Well, I don't know Reiki, so I really can't make a comparison. However, what we do, we understand that there's energy running through the body, according not only the nervous system, but in psychic centers, etc. And what we do is using the various polarities, negative and positive, like in electricity, not meaning bad or good, to influence parts of the body that need healing, to restore balance in terms of energy. If more positive energy is needed, we have ways of placing our fingers on certain parts of the spinal column that then will radiate the proper energy to the place that is needed. So it really is a question of balance. But we also say you've got to be eating correctly, getting exercise, getting rest, doing all the things so that you are following nature. And then if something gets out of balance, this helps. And every once in a while you have to go to a doctor because something is dangerously out of balance. But for the most part, we can keep ourselves in balance with these kind of energy practices.
I like what you were saying a little bit ago about using psychometry. I think you use a different word for it, about picking up objects and being able to see where the object has been and who held it last, and some of the other the psychic exercises that you're using to expand the mind and expand consciousness and receptivity to intuition and those kinds of things. That pricked my ears because that's the kind of work that I also do whenever I'm either working with clients in my Reiki practice or whenever I'm doing investigations on haunted houses and things like that. So that's a very interesting piece of what the Rosicrucians is teaching, is the expansion of the psychic nature of our minds. Right.
And it helps us to realize that there's lots beyond the physical and what we can just see around us. There's a lot more going on. And I think that's the point, really.
Which is exactly the point of my show, just trying to get people to realize that it's not just about going to work and making sure the kids get to soccer practice. There's a great big world out there. Go out there and taste some of it.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sitting here actually at the Rosicrucian Cultural Center up in Harlem in New York. We have this wonderful meditation center in New York, and anybody who comes to the Big Apple, we have other local groups here too, but the Rosicrucian Cultural Center is a great place to come in and meditate. And that's linked on our website, rosicrucian.org. We're in Harlem, which is one of the friendliest neighborhoods in New York. And it's just a real oasis, being able to come in, peacefully meditate.
I've noticed that a lot of, whenever I go see the Martinist websites and talk to Martinists, there's also some connection with Rosicrucians. What is the connection there? Are Martinists Rosicrucians? Or is it kind of like the way all Shriners are Masons, but not all Masons are Shriners? Or how does that
Sure.
work?
Well, the traditional Martinist order comes from the late 19th century. And in 1940, it was placed under the aegis of the Rosicrucian order AMORC. And just in time, because World War II. 1939, 1940. So we brought it over here and nurtured it, and then brought it back to the world. Martinism is the way of the heart, deep inner prayer. It's not a religion, and so that is the only order that we are allied with. And so you can study Martinism at home, and you don't have to be a Rosicrucian in our jurisdiction. However, if you wish to participate at a heptad in the Martinist initiatic path, you do also need to be a member of the Rosicrucian order AMORC. But it's truly a beautiful path. I've gone through the chairs in the traditional Martinist order, and it's really intimate spirituality in a most beautiful way, and it's based on the teachings and tradition of Louis-Claude de Saint-Martin, who is the unknown philosopher. And our most venerable Grand Master, Julie Scott, is the Grand Master for the Martinists, and the Imperator, Christian Bernard, is the Sovereign Grand Master of the traditional Martinist order. So they really work in parallel, very complementary to one another.
We're just about out of time, but can you tell me what Rosicrucianism has done for you personally in your life?
As you mentioned at the beginning, I've been a student of mysticism and practitioner all my life. What the Rosicrucian order has allowed me to do is to organize all my experiences of the past, which not only include Jesuits and Byzantine, but Druids and all kinds of other things. Put that all together in a framework, and the Rosicrucian path helps you to see how all of it interacts with one another. The other thing, and that's kind of on the intellectual level, on the heart level, it's a home. It is a wonderful home, and I have felt so welcomed. My partner has felt so welcomed. It warms the heart to be with like-minded people.
Well, I appreciate you coming onto the show today. This has been fascinating and enlightening, and I always invite you back again. My friends, this has been another episode of the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Wiegand. Tune in again. Thank you very much for listening.